Welcome to the Indiana Athletic Trainers Association podcast. The IATA is dedicated to advancing the profession of athletic training and empowering membership through advocacy, education, networking, and innovative resources. To find out more about the IATA, check out our website and social media pages. The views and opinions expressed by speakers, guests, or others who have provided materials to and for this podcast are not necessarily those of the IATA. The IATA assumes no responsibility for nor endorses any of the comments, recommendations, or materials that are provided. Welcome back, everybody, to the IATA podcast. My name is Daniel Welty, and hosting this episode of the podcast, and excited to have the newest IATA president, Jenny Deranek, on the podcast episode today. Welcome, Jenny, to the podcast.
I am so excited to be here, and apologize for those of you listening. I do have a Midwesterner nasal just talk, so we'll enjoy me. I'm excited to be here and excited to talk. I know this podcast has been a really awesome thing for our members and just for Daniel to be able to run. So I'm really appreciative of you.
I'm glad to do and get to chit chat with people. And so really
Awesome.
what I wanted to talk about, it's, you've kind of been in president role for about a month now. And so really just wanted to use this episode to kind of talk about your presidency and some different things that you may have lined up and ready to go and those types of things. And so let's just start. Just introduce yourself to those that don't know you.
Sure. Yeah. So Jenny Deranek, like we said at the start, and I'm honored and thrilled to be in this role of the president of the IATA. A little backstory about me. I'm originally a Michigander and claim Michigan still as my home, although I think I've been in Indiana about as long. So I need to probably shift that mentality now, don't I? I'm from the Detroit area originally, and my family still lives all there. And I knew I wanted to be an athletic trainer because I had a really formative experience with my athletic trainer in high school, and was really fortunate to have a tibia fracture when I was playing soccer my sophomore year of high school, and it was really traumatic. And my athletic trainer was just instrumental, and it opened my eyes to what athletic training is, and in that setting. And so that led me into my bachelor's degree, which was in athletic training from Albion College in Michigan. And from Albion, I went to where did I go next? Oh, I went to the University of Virginia to get my master's degree, which is a master's of education in kinesiology. And at that time, I worked Division One. So it was really an interesting transition going from a Division III school to a Division I institution, where I had a graduating class of my athletic training class at Albion of 3 to a whole bunch of us at Virginia. So that was a wild time. And then I spent some time after that doing some collegiate athletic training, mostly in the D2, D3 areas. And then I found myself loving teaching. So I had an opportunity to adjunct in a athletic training program and loved it. Just loved teaching and found that was really a passion. And so I, as a lifelong learner, went back to school to get my doctorate in educational leadership. And for the last 10 years, I've been teaching and in administration at Indiana University South Bend. And I've also been doing PRN athletic training for Beacon Health System up here in the North End. So I should say that, right? So I live in Goshen and I work in South Bend at this current moment, but I am actually in a life transition right now of leaving IU here in just about a month and taking an opportunity to venture into a leadership development role as a CEO of a local nonprofit. So that's my athletic training background. Is that good, Daniel? You want more from
I'm
me?
happy. Whatever you want to disclose. Yeah.
Sounds good. Also disclosure wise, I have 3 kids. They are 11 and 9 and 6 and have grown up with my involvement with the IATA, which is a pretty cool thing. And I started with my involvement with IATA right at COVID time. So right in March of 2020, and like many of you who may be listening, I had for a while been getting on committees with an IATA, and they either were or were not successful with engagement and helping me be involved. And so like I just like one time decided to throw my hat in for secretary and got it. And that was really my transition into IATA. And so that has allowed me to have a few terms as secretary and then as president-elect and then now as president. But having kids totally changes my viewpoint of youth sports and the work of athletic trainers, especially community-facing athletic trainers, which is why I love being able to still be a PRN and be able to support that those community-facing events. Yeah, so that's a little bit about me. And trying to think of what else. Oh, I'm a major Dave Matthews fan. I love the color orange. I could keep going, but I really appreciate Daniel knows this because of just I hope our interactions, but I just really appreciate and value like lightheartedness in life and hope to really bring that into my presidency with IATA.
Well, glad to have you and your involvement. I'm not that old, but I've gotten to see your involvement in the IATA from your
It's true.
start.
It's true.
And so that's been it's been cool to see. And as you've transitioned from being the secretary and then transitioning and running for president. So was there maybe a particular reason why you thought, hey, this is what I want to do? I want to run for president and be president of the IATA.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'd say that some of my like upbringing into IATA has been a little more non-traditional compared to maybe like your story or others who've been, grown and grassroots in the state of Indiana. But that aspect of volunteerism and giving back to the profession was instilled in me in my undergraduate experience. We were very engaged with the Michigan Athletic Training Association and the student associations, and that like from a program perspective was really integral to like my culturalization to the profession. And so it's never been a question for me about involvement with a leadership position. It took me a while to get in. And I never really like had goals or ambitions to be in this role as president, but as I had the opportunity to be in the positions that I was in with secretary in particular, and get to know people and get to experience the organization, it's really allowed me the chance to say like, gosh, I think I could do this. And I think that I have some skill sets that may be unique to bring to IATA and to the field of athletic training here in Indiana. And so like let's do it. Let's throw my hat in the ring. And fortunate that there was nobody else who also threw their hat in the ring. So y'all are stuck with me because of nobody else volunteering. But hopefully we'll talk about that, I think, as we keep going on here. But I'm hoping that that's something we can shift and modify as we keep rolling forward with IATA.
Yeah. You mentioned skill set. You've had obviously some different experiences throughout your career, and then obviously your involvement with the IATA. So, what do you feel like some skill sets that you can bring to the table that will be helpful as president of the
Sure.
IATA?
Yeah. I actually think my like non-traditional upbringing into IATA is something that really can help set me apart. And that's no like shade on everyone else who's been a part like from the beginning and the core with IATA, but man, our athletic trainers are coming to the state of Indiana from all over. And so not everyone has that homegrown experience. And so I do think that the perspective that I've had trying to get involved and be engaged and be a good citizen of athletic training is something that is a positive skill set for IATA moving forward. COVID was really an impactful time for our organization and a lot of other organizations and professions. And so we're out of the COVID fog, and I'm looking forward to using my skills of organization and team building and development, and using those to help us create a good foundation, build on the foundation that we already have, and establish it forward so that we can keep ensuring that people are getting engaged and we're bringing in new members and we're bringing in new faces and new ideas. Um, that's important for Indiana, but it's also important for our profession. Our profession just keeps expanding and keeps morphing, appropriately so as the needs keep changing of our active populations. And so that's a beautiful thing. And we need to be sure that our IATA also represents that.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's get down to the big question, right? Of
Yeah. All
what
right.
your what do you want to accomplish? And obviously there's when you start thinking about, oh, I can do this and I can do that and this is what I want to do, because we know there's a lot of things in athletic training that need tackled. And so how do we do that? And then specifically, how does that from an Indiana standpoint, and some of the things that we um, have situations and barriers sometimes in certain situations. So maybe talk a little bit about some hopes, for some accomplishments and things that you would like to get done, as your president role for 2 years.
Yeah. So I think one of the biggest things that I'm hoping to get done is to increase our volunteerism and allow an opportunity to have some different faces and spaces, faces in different spaces. And a lot of that comes from my experiences working with other organizations and just being a human who has a busy life and jobs and kids and all that stuff that in order to volunteer for organizations, there needs to be clear guidelines and support and expectations and a feeling of us being in a team together to work together towards common good. And that's something that we as athletic trainers do on a daily basis. And we have to find a way within IATA to re-establish that in our organization in this virtual environment. And I keep bringing up COVID, but it really is instrumental for my involvement with IATA because being in the north end of Indiana, I can't imagine traveling to Indianapolis every month for meetings. And so the opportunity to have virtual connections with people is instrumental for my involvement. And I'm so grateful for that and also really understanding and respectful for like what it means to get together. I mean, Daniel, you and I have done it, right? When we're here in Glada or at the symposium, it's just so nice to be together. And also, by us having the opportunities to be digitally connected, it allows us to really expand our volunteer opportunities and reach. And so I hope to do that. That is like my number one goal for the next 2 years. And to lean on Becky's legacy of doing policies and procedures and bylaws and really getting that established. We, in the last 2 years, got the website redone. So it's a little cleaner, a little more modern and updated. There's always works in progress. So if you're listening to this and you hear something that's wrong, let us know so we can fix it. We are humans. But I think that level of organization and clarity with roles and responsibilities will bring in additional volunteers and opportunities for people to be engaged and connected. And that aligns with my skill set. And I'm really hoping that that's something that I'll be able to accomplish. Um, I've shared this several times with people, and they're like, "Yes, Jenny, that's not going to take 2 years. So, like, what else are you going to do?" And my answer to that would be just communication. And communication allows for open lines of transparency and connection with our members and others who are not members in Indiana in order for us to understand what's actually happening. So I don't claim to have all of the answers. I am like some of my mentors in undergrad would say, like I'm a paper athletic trainer at this point. I still do practice, but like that's not my full-time gig right now. So I don't have all of the answers. I don't have the best skill and knowledge about heat index and heat illness and third-party reimbursement. But man, I will figure it out. I will get us connected with the right people, And so much of that connection happens because of just open communication and transparency and building on the foundation of what we've had in IATA. I know that as a outsider, I have a lot to learn about the foundation that we have, and I've been spending a lot of time introducing myself to people and learning about like our history. We have such a rich history in Indiana with our association, and I hope to only just enhance that and allow us to have some more engagement forward.
Absolutely. So you talked a lot about volunteerism
Yeah.
and service to the IATA. So, um, you know, why is it important? Why should we, some people call it serving or volunteering. We hear a lot of people and saying, "Oh, I want to give back to the profession." So why, if a member or somebody was asking you that from an athletic training, obviously standpoint, what
Mhm.
would you say in regards to that, and why should maybe I volunteer within the IATA?
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on a person and their motivations and their backgrounds and experiences. So we have athletic trainers across the state who are really engaged with the future of athletic training as preceptors and as educators or whomever clinicians involved with our current students. And we have a lot of athletic trainers who are not. And so it depends on a person's background and experience and um, current current work within athletic training is of how I would answer that. But I think there's just so much I'd have to lean on of just like being a servant to the profession. I firmly believe as a paper athletic trainer, but I firmly believe that this is the foundation that has built me to who I am. And um, because I have such a strong sense of that foundation of what athletic training has provided for me, the transferable skills, the connections, the relationships, the ability to just be quick thinking and a strong critical thinker, that is that is something that I just can't thank the profession enough. Like I cannot thank my education, I cannot thank my skills and experiences enough for that. Um, and so I feel like I owe it, people owe it to the profession to also remain engaged and remain active. And there's so much happening with athletic training right now from a local, a state, a national level, as well as just not only just athletic training, but the healthcare in general. And we need to continue to advocate to have a seat at that table of healthcare professionals to ensure that the recognition is there, the acknowledgement is there, and also the understanding of the diverse perspectives and capabilities of athletic trainers.
Absolutely. If we don't have a seat at the table, we're on the menu. So,
Yep. Yep, absolutely.
yeah. So, what are ways that people can be involved in the IATA, and ways that you see that people, as your as president of the IATA, what are some volunteer opportunities or ways that people can serve within the IATA?
So, I mean, there's tons of opportunities. If you're a person who has, 30 minutes of availability versus someone who has more time than that available. Like there is a place for you in IATA with involvement. And I'd say like the easiest way to be involved in the IATA is to share what's happening and to share what your perspective is and to share what you're experiencing in your workplace, whatever that workplace might be like. And that allows us to truly understand the needs and future direction for IATA. We have committees that each committee has a chair and committees that gather together to help move forward some sort of aspect of the IATA. Um, and that's a great way to be involved. We also are always looking for volunteers for our symposium and coming to the symposium and sharing the symposium with coworkers, if you're able to be there or not, celebrating honors and awards, engaging in social media. I mean, there's so many ways to really get involved and be a strong advocate for athletic training in Indiana. And one of the things I never want people to be deterred based on time and availability because truly like forwarding an email from what's happening within IATA to a peer is advocacy and involvement in IATA, and sharing what's happening at the legislative level as we're sharing all of these updates is or discussing it at a staff meeting. That is engagement and involvement in IATA. So it doesn't always have to look like a formal position or formal involvement or something to go on your resume. That continued advocacy is essential to ensure that we as an association stay viable and our profession stays viable in healthcare in Indiana.
Absolutely. I think a lot of people see the volunteerism and look at an elected position role, or they look at a committee chair role, and
Hmm.
those types of things.
Hmm.
And I know I've shared this story before, but I remember at one IATA student symposium, I asked a group of students, I said, well, how many hours a week do you think somebody spends as a committee chair position that's also on the board of the IATA? Or how many hours a week do you think the president spends doing their
Yeah.
volunteer role? And like one of the students was like, well, the president probably spends 40 hours a week doing their role. And I was like, maybe a couple hours,
Yeah.
maybe a little more, depending on,
A few hours.
emails, depending
Yeah.
on I said per week. And they
Yeah.
were so surprised by that.
Yeah.
I think they thought it was so much more time driven,
Hmm.
and it's like
Hmm.
me, and then I was like, as a chair, I said, I'm a very active chairperson, and I'm like,
Hmm.
I spend only a couple hours a week doing
Yeah.
things. I
Right.
said, but then there's times where you don't have anything to do that week. You don't get an
Hmm.
email that week where you don't have to
Hmm.
respond to. And so
Hmm.
I said it fluctuates. But I think that opened the eyes to the students that there's opportunities out there that are, some committee positions, like we have honors and awards committee. They work heavy, when I say heavy,
Exactly.
I mean a couple hours a week for
Yeah.
two or
Right.
3 months.
Right.
But
Right.
then after that, it's pretty low key. They do some, improve on their processes and stuff like that. But really, it's not really time consuming. I think that's where you talked about, Jenny, of there's
Hmm.
really a role for everybody
Hmm.
regardless of your time that you have available.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, mentioned earlier, kind of tongue in cheek about that, like if you see something on the website that isn't right, let us know. That's engagement. And like truly, we need to know that because we are a volunteer run organization. And I am in the current role that I'm in right now, like desperately trying to help everyone to understand that too, that yeah, I love IATA and I'm here for IATA. And also it's not paying my bills. And so, like I have to make sure that that role is taken care of and I'm tucking my kids in at night and balancing all of that while also still giving back to the profession and serving. And I think we have a pretty good balance of it here. And it also depends on the role. It depends on what someone's gifts and talents might be, and also what they're looking to stretch into. We've had people who've been in the treasurer position who really haven't had much background in that. And we are fortunate to have the support of the association management group to help us, which is an incredible step in leadership to help people develop skill sets that will help lead them forward into whatever the current or the future looks like for them, both personally and professionally. And I mean, that's a beautiful thing. Going back to your question before about like why volunteer, that's a beautiful thing about this. Like this engagement in organizations like this are leadership that you don't get in your workplace most of the time, right? It's a different level of collaboration, connection, engagement, and leadership that, I mean, again, as athletic trainers, it's incredible transferable skills.
Yeah, absolutely. And you get the opportunities. I think like when one door opens, multiple doors start opening up with opportunities to do a lot of
Right.
different things. And
Right.
we know as athletic trainers, right? Like in our day-to-day roles and what we do, like we know our skill set, we know what we're strong at. We also have the soft skills. And I think a lot of those soft skills have, because of all of our strong state district and national associations of athletic training that we've learned and we've developed these skill sets through that that have
Mm.
been transferable then to the job. But we know who we are and we're good at, but we also
Yep,
know when it's time to lean on somebody else.
absolutely.
I'm
Yeah,
not an
which is
accountant. I don't know how
essential.
to do all those things. I don't do taxes. Like that's not my
Should do
thing.
taxes, Daniel.
Well,
Every we do them
well,
every year.
okay. Don't, hopefully IRS doesn't listen to this podcast.
Hopefully not. You're right. Hopefully not.
So it's like I'm not the expert in those things. I couldn't do taxes by
Mhm,
hand, but
mhm,
that's why we utilize individuals
mhm.
and those types of things to help us part of that. But then you start learning things and you do things, and then it's just like it jumps forward. And then I think it does ultimately, at least in my experience, and Jenny, you can comment, it's made me a better athletic trainer to my
Mhm.
patients to be able to provide them, still utilizing my skill set that I've learned, but it just makes me a better clinician. But I
Yep.
also think that makes me a better person.
Yep.
Just I feel like I'm more understanding, more compassionate, but then utilizing these skill sets to work with certain patients, depending on how they need information presented or those types of things. So there's a lot
Right.
of, like you said, transferable skills.
Right. Right. And I mean, I think the same thing as an educator, that it makes me a better educator because I can tell my students like this is advocacy and this is what I'm doing. And it also, in a weird way, gives me just a much better level of respect and support for people who are coaching Little League or they are volunteering at a church or they are engaged in some other aspect of volunteerism in some way because it's essential and it's how we continue to ensure that we have a stake in the game, like this grassroots involvement with our organization and what we think it should be. I want to go back to I was thinking about this, the question about like, I don't know what it was, something about why did I want to be president or something like that. I'm an athletic trainer. I would be happy on the sidelines without anyone having any idea who I am. Like it honestly, like I said, this isn't a role that I like strived to be in or I aspired to be in. I am very comfortable and happy on the sidelines. And also, I know that I have strong leadership skills. And so this is where it's a valuable thing that sometimes I think people think leaders are always the person who are out front. And in this position, I am. And also, like, it's not a super comfortable place for me to be. Like, I would much rather like not have a title and do the work and be able to crush through it. Because again, like that's some of the foundation that athletic training helped me build. And I think it's a really valuable skill set to have. And also, it's important, right? It's important for people to be able to be in this place and be able to give back and to serve. No matter if you're on the sidelines, if you're in the front, if you're, running on the field or court or helping a patient who's coding. I mean, like there's so many things that athletic trainers do, and I really feel like volunteerism in this embodies just so much of it.
Yeah.
But I do not like accolades. I don't like to be in the front. I don't like to. I'm comfortable. I'm happy to do it, and I'm comfortable doing it. I just would rather just be supporting.
Yeah. And I think, and to your point, and I think that's why volunteerism is important to me is because if we don't volunteer and we don't advocate for ourselves, who's going to do it, right?
Right, right,
And as a volunteer ran
right.
association, we need all of our members. We need people, everybody be engaged. And to Jenny's
We do.
point, even if it's just, be first being a member, but reading emails. There's a newsletter that goes out every month and just being and understanding what's happening, and then commenting. And it doesn't take a lot of time to do those things, to be involved and to be engaged.
Right.
And then you become involved. And that reason I saw that was important to me was because we have to do something to make our profession better, right? And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's what, to your point, Jenny, of we're kind of a support behind the scenes kind of people.
Hmm.
But again, if we're not on the forefront advocating for ourselves, nothing's
Right.
going to change, nothing's going to improve. And I think if you look at our history, even the IATA history, many of the leaders of the past, they, they weren't comfortable in those roles either, but they
Mhm.
understood how valuable and how important it was.
Right.
Because if we didn't advocate for ourselves, the profession would die. And
Well, and that's what's allowed us to have so much of the advancements that we've had in the state. And I know that we have a lot more opportunity for more, and I'm excited to work with the states around us and with GLADA and NATA to really ensure that we are utilizing our membership dollars to the best of our abilities because there are so many resources that are coming from NATA and from GLADA that can help us extend and support athletic training in Indiana. And that's become really apparent to me as I've moved into this role. And I'm excited for us to do that, use those resources, and also, again, like this super strong foundation that we have here in Indiana.
what are some things as president of the IATA that you get to do, or maybe involved with, maybe with maybe other groups or other things out there, maybe that some people don't understand, and so maybe talk a little bit about some other roles and responsibilities that you would have that aren't the kind of quote obvious things.
Yeah. I wish I had a good answer to that, Daniel, and I really don't because I'm like 1 month in. So I'm sure that some of that is going to come. I just don't really know yet. I know there's some other committees and things that I'll be involved in, and have some good networking connections with the other states in GLADA and the representatives. But I think that this role allows me to really have a good handle on the big picture of what's happening and what's occurring legislatively and some concerns that we may have with our athletic trainers across the state and involving and engaging and activating AT's care, and really having a good pulse on kind of that big picture. So I'm sure more is going to come with it as I keep having this identity and stepping into this identity, but it's pretty expansive. And going back to the volunteerism question, I'll be honest, like I had to, knowing I was taking on this role, I had to like carve time into my life for it. So I've had to say no to other volunteer opportunities to be present for this moment because I really take this seriously, and this opportunity I take really seriously and is like a true honor to be able to do. And so that means that I had to, say no to other things and adapt things in other ways. So again, I'm sure it's going to, I just got passed a note from my daughter. I'm sure it's going to grow. And I'm sure that there are things that are happening that we as IATA are involved in and things that we are not involved in that we should be. And I'm excited to explore those.
Yeah. I think you make a good point. You talked earlier about life balance,
Mm,
and we all have a day job, and we have families, and we have other responsibilities in our life, and maybe other volunteer positions and different things that we get to be busy with in our lives. And thankfully we get to, I'm always thankful I get to do a number of
yep.
different things in my life.
What a
But
gift, isn't it?
it
Such a gift.
is.
Yeah.
But I had somebody tell me when I was a student, I think I was just graduating, told me it's not that people don't have time, it's they make time for what's important.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
Yep.
and while life fluctuates depending on what season of life that you're in, I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure with your kids, Jenny, when they were much younger, that was a very different life versus now
Mm-hmm.
as they get older and as they become teenagers and going into middle
Yeah,
school and
yeah.
high school and just
I know I'm already
your
watching these
future.
youth sports and pitch count. One of my kids is on two different baseball teams, and he was talking about him pitching for both teams on Saturday. And I was like, no, no, we're gonna have to talk about this.
But as our lives change, other things can change too, right? But you will always make time for what's important, and if this profession's important to you, and making sure that things like our State Practice Act stays intact and the way it
Right.
should be, or improves,
Absolutely.
or your role in your position at your job. We saw, we bring COVID back up, that
Yep.
some jobs were wiped off or they had
Yep.
to adapt, depending on the employer or the school. So there's
Hmm.
a lot of things that um, has to change, and we have to be advocates for, and we have to make time for. And I think it's important that people make time to volunteer in some fashion and be engaged in some fashion
Yep.
with the IATA and with other athletic training groups that are just trying to do the right thing to make this profession better.
Right. And I do think I didn't mention this before, but I think one of an area of strength of mine, and obviously it's what I've been doing professionally for the last 10 years, is higher ed and engaging with our students. Like this, it's so cheesy, but the students are the future. And, athletic training education has changed from when I was a student. It's changed from when I was teaching in an education program. And when individuals are not totally engrossed and connected with that, there's a lot of uncertainty and challenge to that. And I hope to be able to engage our students that are in our athletic training education programs to ensure that they know the IATA is here, that we care, that we're human, what it means to be advocates. And our programs do a really good job with that. But it's really important for them to see IATA as something that's not scary, and something that is possible and doable. And, whether they stay in the state of Indiana, which I hope they do, or they venture somewhere else, that they have an understanding of what a state association is, what it does, and what it can do for the profession. And I hope that we can just have that connection so they know that moving forward.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
that's why I'm here. Truly, like that's why I'm engaged in IATA, is because of that level of connection from when I was a student.
And so we've talked a lot about engagement and being involved, and
Mhm.
if somebody's interested in being involved, what's the maybe the best way to contact you or the
Sure.
best way to contact the IATA?
Email me, which my email's all over the IATA website and stuff. Daniel knows this. I may not get back to you until like 4 days later, maybe five. But that's a blend, right? That's a balance of life and making it work. And so you definitely emailing me or contacting anyone who is engaged within IATA, and we will connect. Um, and ensure that there's a place and a space, and trying to connect you with something that is in line with what you might be thinking, what your strengths might be. Or if you're at a place where you're like, gosh, I really don't know about communication, but I would love to learn more. This is a great way and space to do it to help grow those skills. So I'd say email is probably the best opportunity. But again, like we'll have the symposium coming up here in June. And so we'll be there for that, as well as the Honors and Awards celebration, which will be an incredible night to celebrate all of our award winners. I've had the opportunity the last few weeks here to give those people phone calls, and it's just been remarkable to hear their excitement to accept the recognition. And I'm just thrilled to be able to recognize them. So, like, those are in person ways for us to be able to do that. And we can continue to have connections and virtual meetings, and I mean, you name it. If you're up in the northern area, I'm happy to meet in person. Um, but email is probably the best. Long answer. There you go.
Yeah.
Sure.
And I'm glad you mentioned the IATA award celebration that's happening on Saturday, June 6th.
Yep.
It's going to be at the District Tap on 86th Street.
Mm,
And then the following day, June 7th, for our one-day hands-on IATA annual symposium, where learning becomes doing. And so I'm
mhm.
excited for that. And if you check out the last podcast episode, you can learn a little bit more about different speakers and different topics that'll be had. And then all of this information and to register for both events is on the IATA website.
Yeah. What I want to add to about the symposium, as again, whoever's listening to this, like as someone who is not engrossed in day-to-day clinical athletic training, sometimes the idea of doing learning labs is a little intimidating, myself included, right? But my goodness, through these symposiums, I have learned so many skills. It has been just remarkable to see what our athletic trainers are doing, and whether it's something I'm going to integrate in my daily life or not. It's just been so cool to witness that. I think, 2 years ago, Daniel led a fun casting um, seminar, and that was thrilling. I loved it so much. Just something I don't do, and I don't do professionally in this space that I'm in. So my push for that is, like, if you're listening to this or considering, and that hands-on is not something that is necessarily relevant to you, like, and push yourself outside your comfort zone and come join us in a safe space.
Yeah. I've always said, I'm in a physician practice, so I don't do a lot of rehabilitation and manual treatment that I do enjoy doing, but it's always nice to go to these things and then be like, oh, I could use that technique on
Yeah,
myself, not just for patients, but
exactly.
for myself.
Exactly. Yeah. That's the beautiful thing about being athletic trainers, right? Is we could do a lot of that stuff. So anyways.
Well,
Yeah.
Jenny, did you have anything else that you wanted to add and to share with people as you've started your role as IATA president?
I think, I just want to encourage people to engage in some fashion. That might be now, that might be in months or years from now, but I it is really rewarding to know that we're doing something that's impacting athletic trainers, and it's impacting the patients that we work with, and that continued ripple effect of community health. And that is just a really cool thing when you take a step back and look at it look at this engagement from a macro level. Also, like, I think too, I would love to hear from people about needs and ideas and advocacy opportunities that we can do and focus on with IATA. I think that sometimes we kind of have some, like, of the frequent things that come up that we need more AEDs and CPR individuals, and we need more focus on heat illness and awareness. Like, we know these things, and concussion management. Like, I could keep going. And also, like, if you're struggling with leadership in the athletic training facility, or you're navigating with conflict and need skills with and support with conflict resolution, like, just those are the things that we also want to be able to engage. And we don't know what happens on a day-to-day aspect in whatever role and facility it looks like for you. And so reach out, let us know how we can best advocate and support in whatever way that we can.
And I do have one last question. If you've been a
It's a hot
listener of the,
question.
yeah, if you've been a listener of the podcast, you know the question. So, Jenny, if you could be an animal, what animal would you be and why?
I would be a frog. I love frogs. I think they're just so cool. They have so much different creativity to them. And one of the things I love about frogs, which I don't know if this means anything about me, but, like, when they, like, you see them underwater and you see, like, just their eyes, like, popping out, that they're, like, there, they're watching, they're waiting, they're just ready to, like, act and react. And I think that describes athletic training in so many ways, and also being a mom and a wife and a boss and all the other stuff. So I'd be a frog. That's what I would do.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a good interview question that I have my students answer all the time. So I'm always prepared for weird things like that. Superpowers or utensils, or you name it. What does your car look like? You name it. I got it. I got those.
Well, Jenny, I do appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to come on to the IATA podcast. And we, as an association and as a profession, look forward to your leadership as IATA president.
Thanks, Daniel. I appreciate the time, and I appreciate anybody who's listening and just the investment in IATA. I'm excited.
Thank you for tuning in to the Indiana Athletic Trainers Association podcast. We appreciate you taking time to listen and look forward to you joining us again on the next episode. To find out more about the IATA or to get in touch with us, you can visit our website or reach out via social media.